All right, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to part two of Dune Overture. I am Matt Yancik. I am your humble game master, or perhaps I should say Seach Nabe, for tonight's game. So tonight we're presenting a kind of, well, I guess in a word, an overture to the original novel by Frank Herbert, Dune. I'm disregarding everything by Brian Herbert. I'm disregarding everything that came after Dune. We're just basically having fun on a Friday night, so we hope that you enjoy our story. Tonight's adventure is the conclusion of Overture. It is part two. And of course, it takes place in Frank Herbert's Dune universe. So the known universe is a vast place. Humanity is scattered across immense and nearly inconceivable distances and ruled over by the Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. So the spice melange, which is commonly referred to as just simply the spice, is a naturally produced mind-altering narcotic that's been the fundamental building block of commerce, culture, and technological development in the known universe for millennia. So the spice plays an important role in space travel as it enables guild navigators, these are humans who consume immense amounts of this stuff, to safely guide starships through warp space. So the spice is the rarest and most valuable commodity in the known universe. And since its discovery several thousand years prior, the spice has been exclusively found on one planet and one planet alone. In approximately 10,130 AG, or after Guild, House Harkonnen won the planetary fief of that one planet. So House Harkonnen's responsibility was to mine it and supply it to the universe. Through their persecution of the local people, humans living in tribes known as the Fremen, the Harkonnens managed to pay the tithe they owed to the Padishah Emperor and keep a substantial amount of the spice melange for themselves. So several decades later, however, it is time for House Harkonnen's planetary fief, their control of that one planet, to shift to another house. And so we pick up our story at this time and on this one planet. So the year is now 10,191 AG after Guild, and the place is Arrakis, Dune, the desert planet. And so tonight, let's welcome my good buddies, players that I have been playing games with probably since high school, I think, except for Larry. But Larry has been someone I've been playing with for, oh my God, like at least 7 or 8 something years, probably longer than that. Unfortunately, those of you that watched part one may notice that we're missing Dean Lewis, Alpha Dean, to his buddies. Unfortunately, Dean could not make it for tonight, but the show must go on. We're hoping that he may join us a little bit later tonight. So if he does, he will be hopping in to play with us. We're all crossing our fingers. Hopefully, he will be here. The game won't be quite the same without him. But for you, the viewer, we're here tonight. And as I mentioned before, I will be game mastering this game. And one of the reasons I kind of wanted to do this game as a live online play was simply because I saw a lot of Facebook, Reddit comments, and Twitter comments about the rules being rather complex or maybe being a little bit difficult to understand. I am a teacher of 20 years, and what I hope to do was not to teach anyone how to play, but to sort of make an example and show you that even when you don't quite know the rules or you're a little bit confused by them, there's no reason why you can't go out there and play the game yourself and just have fun with it. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. We have a general idea of how the rules run through. I do have some title cards and graphics that I'll be throwing up on the screen throughout the game just to sort of keep everybody up to date on what we're doing. But we're probably most certainly going to make some mistakes. We're not worried about it because it's Friday night. We love Dune. We love to play role-playing games, and we got no work tomorrow, so we're just going to have fun with it. So, buddies of mine, why don't we go around, and if you all want to introduce yourselves, and perhaps maybe more appropriately your characters, let's start with you, Steve. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are playing tonight?
Sure. So my name's Steve, and I am portraying Diverian Lusk,
Hmm.
who, like the rest of the group, is a Fremen, and he's kind of a little bit of a wild child. Whereas the group is very tribal and tight knit, he kind of sees a universe out there that he's interested in and curious about, and so he kind of takes the contrarian view about even the Harkonnens, and thinks that the tribe is a little bit backwards, and if they would just open up to the rest of the empire, maybe there could be a better life, and they don't have to be as insular on the planet. So
Yes, and this is a rather interesting character because of the fact that, of course, the Fremen are known for actually kind of being, and of course, this is a stereotype, and as we all know, as Dune fans know, it's completely untrue. But they're known as being like the simplistic dregs of the universe, when in fact they're quite sophisticated in their way. But ironically, Steve, you're playing a character that is rather interested in what's going on in the universe around them, and kind of like walking the line between the Fremen way and perhaps the ways of the rest of the universe. Um,
yep.
okay, Larry, let's keep going around. Can you tell us a little bit about Reese?
Yes, Reeves' body is from, he's an off-worlder. He's not from Arrakis, but he was exiled from his own home at a relatively young age, in his early 20s. He's been on Arrakis for about 30 years and is some sort of elder, uh, primarily in the ways of off-world
Mm-hmm.
sort of understandings. Um, as a result, he's a bit of an outcast because he's not a pure Fremen, of course, but on the same token, he has been there long enough and has provided enough wisdom that he is still respected in the community, or at the
Mm-hmm.
very least tolerated. and
Sure. Kind of like
his
the way that we tolerate you as our friend.
Precisely, exactly.
Right?
And he sees a little bit of the Diverian wanting to experience what he has experienced, and is trying to tell him, no, you're pretty good here on Arrakis.
Sure. And so the interesting thing, and the thing that we worked out kind of in the session zero, is that you may have noticed here that Larry is playing a character named Reese, who kind of represents what's going on outside in the universe. Now, if Dean were here, Dean was playing a very pure, dyed-in-the-wool Fremen, and there was meant to be some tension as Diverian felt pulled sometimes toward Fader, who is Dean's character, and Reese, who is Larry's character. So we're going to run the game as if Fader were here, but we're going to kind of run it like just sort of in a blurry way, where Fader's doing things generally in the background, and we focus in on who is able, who is able to come tonight. So let's keep going around the table. Let's talk to Jarod Riley, who's playing Tyros. Now, are you Belosh or Belloc?
No, it's
Because
Belosh. It's Belosh.
how obvious. Belloc. Dimitri. So, Belosh, Tyros Belosh Dimitri, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
He is also a Fremen, very much like Fader, in that he is a follower sort of the older ways and a believer of the traditions that have been passed down.
Mm-hmm.
He is definitely believed that the Fremen have been sort of wronged for all these generations, and they are sort of owed this planet, and even to the extent that he believes this the Shai Hulud have actually communicate with him
Mm.
mainly through his dreams, and have sort of prophesized or have given him the quest to find the secret reserves of water that are hidden in the core of the planet, and it's his job to release them.
Got it. Got it. And so, how about this? Again, as a teacher and a game master, whenever I run my games, specifically when I stream them, I like to sort of empower the people that are watching by sort of letting them know things happen to everybody. And so we have a player that's missing tonight. Unfortunately, Dean isn't here. Dean was meant to sort of represent the other side of the scale, if you will. So I was wondering, Jarod or Tyros, would you mind perhaps taking over that a bit, that sort of a role a bit, and just sort of using your character maybe in a way that Dean may have used his own character, Fader? It's totally up to you. You don't have to if you don't want to. I'm just wondering
Yeah,
if
no, I
that's
was
okay.
definitely always gonna follow his lead and sort of
Yeah.
take that side. So I'll do what I can.
Okay. Makes sense.
Oh, and if I may interject
Yeah.
for one moment, I mean, I think this is really important. With Beloche, the E at the end of the name,
Here we
it
go.
makes the O long. So if the E was gone, it would definitely be Belloc. But since it's the E's there, Matt, that makes it Beloche.
Is that the Belgian in you there, Larry, that's speaking up now? Or
that's typical construction for Latin-based words. All right.
Good reference. Okay. I wish I could give you some sort of inspiration for that. There is no inspiration in this game.
You give him
However,
momentum. You can give him determination.
you may not have won inspiration, but you've won my heart. I could give him some of that.
Determination. Yeah.
And all right then. So before I kind of like show you what some of the basic rules are, let's talk about where we left our story with last week's episode and do a quick summary. So is there anyone, and of course I'm prepared to do this myself just to move things along, but is there anyone here? I feel like I'm talking to my 4th and 5th graders now because I just sort of did this at school today.
I didn't do the homework.
Is there anyone that would like to, please raise your hand, don't speak out loud. Is there anyone that would like to give us 4 or 5 sentence summary of what happened in the first half of our adventure? Yes, Diverian, the young fellow in the orange shirt in the dunes, please.
Can I go to the bathroom?
And that is a typical, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I'm in a 4th or 5th grade classroom, and I'm like, the only thing that could be more typical of a 4th or 5th grade classroom is if you have your hand up and I call on you, and I'm like, what would you like? And they're like, I was just raising my hand to stretch. And they'd be doing it for like 5 minutes. That's so typical. Larry, you can attest to this, right?
I taught high school, but they did the same thing.
Yes,
so.
yes, you're right. So at any rate, Diverian, would you like to give us a bit of a summary?
So yes, we were out on, I think, just a regular patrol, and
water.
Yeah, looking for water, looking for normal stuff that you do on a desert world, and we came across some what I believe were like mercenary smuggler type, and they had a couple of prisoners because we thought that they might be a couple of missing Fremen that had disappeared from our encampment. And but it turns out that they were not, but they were captives of, and these off-world smugglers, and they had been working together, but then they had escaped from that camp, and a couple of bad dudes that we ended up killing. And then we found out that they had a bigger operation not too far away, and thought that, or I think we got the intel that that's where they were holding our Fremen brothers. And so we hatched a plan to, get, have a prison break basically. And we used Reese as a decoy, as a potential prisoner. And we donned, I don't remember who it was, but I think it was the 3 other ones donned their uniforms to kind of pretend to be those mercenaries. And we broke into the camp, set up a thumper to, our grand plan was to set a 10-minute timer to call a sandworm in, cause a diversion, get our guys out. Didn't quite go quite according to plan, but so, and here's where I get a little fuzzy, but we broke in, we met a couple of head honchos. I think we found our Fremen brothers
You
and
did.
freed them from. They were they were like in like some kind of holding tank of some kind,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we didn't know exactly what to make of that. And then somewhere along the lines, a sandworm showed up, and I think that's where we ended.
Yes, that was actually an excellent summary. You were officially nominated as official summarizer of every game. That is
I'd
true.
like to I'd like to add one thing to that. And
Sure.
they also are it's a pretty advanced operation. They have some unusual tech that they're using
Right.
to kind of shelter and mask themselves from being spotted. It's a really we're unsure if this is the only outpost or if they could have dozens of them and we wouldn't know it.
Yes. And thank you very much for adding that, Reese. And Diverian, that was an excellent summary. So, yes, essentially, the party was on a patrol through the desert doing the things that Fremen often do when they're patrolling and securing perimeters, watching out for the tribe and for their siege. They knew that there were two of their tribe that were missing. They spotted what looked like two Fremen or two people that were being led along through the desert for execution. They intervened. They managed to stop the execution. One of the three captors was killed in an interrogation and actually killed themselves rather than fully reveal what they knew. And the two captives turned out not to be Fremen, but smugglers that were being executed for perhaps skimming off the top. So our party bound those smugglers, left them off. A bit off the beaten path, and they tempted Diverian by saying, look, we have this technology that's pretty amazing, as Reese was saying, and why don't you go check it out? Just let us go. And not knowing whether or not to let them go, they secured them and went looking for their Fremen brothers, and Diverian was motivated a little bit by the temptation of this kind of off-worlder technology, and the others were motivated just simply by helping their brothers or sisters, whoever it may be. Once they got to the encampment, they formulated a plan, which was to have a thumper to use as a distraction so that while just before, or I should say just after, they managed to rescue their two brothers from the encampment, they would hightail it out of there. The worm would show up, blast through the surface of Dune, and provide some sort of a cover while they ran away. Unfortunately, they did manage to get to the holding cell, the structure where their brothers or sisters were being held. However, our friend who's not here tonight, Dean, who is playing Fader, actually managed to roll a 20. And when a roll of a 20, something like a complication comes up, and the complication in this particular case was that a sandworm, the thumper went off early, and a sandworm erupted through the ground. Just prior to that moment, they were talking with a creature which was referred to as Cardinal Thome. Cardinal Thome was a human that was undergoing the process of transformation into a sandworm by using the sand trout in the ground. So at this point, essentially, they've discovered their two companions who are being suspended within some sort of field within this structure. Cardinal
Are they
Thome.
suspended in the same field or separate fields?
Separate fields. Thank you
Okay.
for the distinction. But that at this point doesn't really matter because we literally, almost literally left it on a cliffhanger. We left it on a upside down hanger because at that moment, as the worm was erupting up through the ground, the structure was tumbling upside down and everyone inside of it was tumbling end over end as the worm presumably erupts out of the sand. The only thing that seemed to be stable in this particular case are the two columns of light, which are holding the two Fremen. And everyone else is tumbling at this point. So the structure is a complete mess as it tumbles end over end. All of you are completely out of sorts at this point. And you have realized that Shai Hulud has come quite a bit early. So would anyone like to discuss, and I'm going to give you a moment here, even though in real life you wouldn't have it, but just because we're starting the game and picking up, would you guys like to discuss what your strategy is going to be at this point?
Now, I was under the impression that Fader had disabled one of the fields because I thought I was running toward to try and collect the Fremen that had spilled out of it. I think that was the case.
Okay, we can say that. We can go
Okay.
ahead and say that. What I remember, and I remember we had a little bit of problem in the description. I had honestly I had seen 2 columns of light in a darkened room with a single column of light that was kind of in your face, like an interrogator's light.
Oh, that
And
might have
what
been
I
what
had
you was
imagined,
referring
it's totally fine because we could go back, ladies and gentlemen. We could check notes. We could do all these things. But you know what? It's like I've said before. It's
Okay.
Friday night. We're trying to have fun. And if Reese thinks that that's what Fader did, why don't we say that Fader launched his crysknife at one of the columns of light, dropping and freeing one of those prisoners. But at that moment, that's exactly when the whole structure tumbled over.
Yeah, I believe I said something to the effect of, I'm no good in a fight anyway. And after
Yes, there you go. That proves it.
Is the person we were talking to also in the structure with us still?
Yes, so that person was referred to as Cardinal Thome, and Cardinal Thome is the half human, half sandworm, sand trout encrusted, encased creature at this point. And they are tumbling now.
Okay.
Anything else?
Well, I mean, we're all like bingo balls right now, right?
Yes,
So I mean,
you're just
we've got no control over anything.
right. But I didn't know. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm just going to sort of take over at this point. I don't want to just sort of run. I don't want to railroad you here. But if there's something you kind of want to do to,
Well, I imagine that we all have, some kind of signaling method to each other, like
Sure.
being, operative. So
Yeah.
I guess maybe like try to send a signal, be it auditory or gesture, to these guys to maybe rendezvous at one of the exits.
As you're tumbling.
Well, yeah, I mean, just kind of if maybe we can coordinate where we want to go.
How many exits are there, Matt? Just the one, or
The one, all that you saw was the one. If you remember, there were 2 sort of portholes.
double door? It had a
Double
foyer.
doors
Right.
that irised. And one was basically like a vacuum kind of I forget what the heck they're called, but it was like an airlock essentially going from the outside to the inside. So all that you've seen is 2. Now the inside of this structure is some sort of organic technology. So is that what you guys are going to try and do? Is regroup right at the front? Is anyone going to try and help out this guy or this figure?
Yeah, that was what I was gonna do, is go after the one guy who's still stuck.
Okay.
You use the tumbling to my advantage to be able to get access to the source of the light.
Right. Okay, this makes sense. So Jarod, or I'm sorry, Tyros, you're up to that. Reese and Davirian, are you both heading towards the airlock?
Well, have I been able to at least get a hand on the hostage?
Why don't we do this? Why don't we make this our first roll of the night?
Okay.
So let's just see what happens in
boy.
this case. So I know we rolled a 20 with our last roll in our first game. So let's see what we roll on our first roll of the game.
Okay.
So,
well, what am I looking at? Am I looking at move?
well, okay.
Yeah.
I would say that it's going to be move. So here's what I want to do right now is I'm popping up a title card which shows basically the rules of our game. So here's the way that the game works. You take a skill and a drive, which have a rating between 3 and 8, and you put the 2 together. The skill represents the actual physical thing that you're doing. The drive represents the spirit of what you are doing. You add these 2 things together and you come up with a target number. So Larry is going to take his D20s, and in this case, he's going to use 2 D20s, and every D20 that rolls equal to or below the target number is considered a success. Okay, so if a skill that Larry is using, like move, has a focus, then any roll that's equal to or below the skill level itself is a critical, and it counts as 2 successes. And in all cases, a roll of a 1 is a critical and counts as 2 successes, and a 20 is always basically a complication. So Larry, tell us about you're using move, right? Do you have a
Yeah.
focus in
Yeah,
move?
I'm trying to think something that would be logical. And the only thing that I can really think of is the focus is power, because I have to overpower this tumbling in order to get at the individual that's also tumbling like popcorn at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and unfortunately, that's one of my lower drives, but that's the only one that I can logically think of. So my statement for that is the word is more so than the sword. And in this case, the act is more so than the sword.
Sure. And so just to let people at home know, what I'm doing is I'm setting a target number. It's a rating between 1, or actually between 0 and 5. And Larry has to hit this target number with the number of his successes in order to actually succeed.
And if you set it at 3, it's impossible because I only have 2 dice, right?
Yes, but that's not technically impossible, because if you
Well,
roll,
true, because you got the double ones.
if you
right?
roll a 1, then it is
Right.
possible to get that. So
Okay.
because it's the first roll of the night, I'm just going to call this a 2. You need to
Okay.
get 2 successes
2
with this,
successes.
just to make it easy, and just for those people that are watching at
Before
home.
you go on, do we have any momentum? Did we have any left over from last time? I don't have those notes.
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked this question, because unfortunately momentum does not carry over from prior games. So momentum is basically like XP, and it's spent by the players. In order to give themselves extra dice and things like that. So every player gets 1 momentum point for every success beyond the difficulty rating. And at the end of a scene, your momentum points are lost, okay? So unfortunately, there's nothing saved from before. What I don't remember, however, is whether or not you actually start with it. So I'm going to say you do.
You don't, but I have
Let's start.
a trait.
No. Oh, a trait that will help Larry?
Yes.
Okay.
I can't find where the hell it is in
It is called dedication.
Dedication,
exactly.
exactly.
Talent.
That's the
Mhm.
one. Talent, that's the one, yes. So
Tell
what's
us
the rules
about
on that?
Tell us about it.
Essentially, you roll under your
Is it the skill?
skill. I can't remember which skill, though. I got to look it up. Page 128.
Don't look it up. It's Friday. We're having fun. We'll just say that
Discipline.
it's this skill.
It's discipline.
Oh, it only
Okay,
works
so under
for
your
discipline?
discipline. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you got to roll your discipline or under on 1 20-sided die. If you're successful, and this is at the beginning of a session, if you're successful, you get one momentum.
Okay.
Is it meet or lower?
It's meter lower.
Yeah.
All right, I rolled a 6. I met it.
There you
All
go.
right.
You got it.
My discipline is
are you spending
4. My discipline is 4, and a 13 did not get it. So my dedication is nothing.
So you don't get it. All that for naught.
That's okay. I got 13 out of the way.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to
That's
get the 2
right.
successes.
That's right. Now you can get nothing but 1s.
Do you want to spend the momentum now or leave it?
I don't. I don't think
Okay.
that this is a life or death yet.
Okay.
All right. So I'm got a 5 move. I've got a 5 power. I have to roll 2 dice.
Yep.
Under 10. If I get it under 5,
Yep.
then I get the double.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're rolling fast and furious tonight.
Rolled a 2 and I rolled a 16.
Oh, so 1
2
success.
is definitely under my move.
Right. But unfortunately, oh, so you get 2 successes with that?
2 successes.
There you go.
If it's under my move, I get 2 successes.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you
Okay.
go. As long as you have as long as you have a focus in that.
Okay, I thought that was
Right,
only 1.
Right. I don't know if he has a focus or not. I
Do
don't
you have
know.
a focus in that?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. My focus isn't communicate. It's diplomacy.
There you go.
Sorry.
No problem. So
Okay.
that's no problem. In fact, it's wonderful, because what I get to describe here is Reese diving toward the Fremen that you have managed to well, that Fader has managed to free. And unfortunately, just as you think you're about to latch on, grab onto them, and sort of use them like in a judo move to maneuver yourself to a position where you're back on your feet and you've helped this other Fremen, unfortunately, the structure continues to tumble and take you with it, and that Fremen just slips right out of your hands and continues to go. Is there anyone else that is going at this moment?
Yeah, I'll go. I'll take
Sure.
a shot to try and
Yep.
free the other Fremen.
Yep. Well, you're going to try and free the one that's still encased or
Correct.
in. Okay. How are you going to do this?
I assume I would have to interact or most likely break whatever the machine is that's causing the light.
Yeah, so you're tumbling.
Mm-hmm.
The entire room is tumbling.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone in the room is tumbling. Your equilibrium is way off. I'm going to set a target number. I feel like this is unfair. I know, right? On a scale of 1 to 5, I'm setting it at 100.
Yeah.
I'm going to set it to be really nice at 4.
Thanks.
Wow.
Only because this is the second roll of the night.
All right.
I hate to roll the
And
8th roll.
only because I've played with you for 30 years, Jarod. And I respect you.
That.
You can do it.
Nice reference, Larry.
Especially on a desert planet.
Yeah.
Right?
You
He'd
can
be
do
very
it.
valuable.
Okay.
So I'm setting a difficulty of 4. So if the difficulty is 4, that is essentially 4 successes on your part. So
Okay.
you want to spend your. Do you want to go ahead and spend?
I'm gonna spend both things, right? So you start
Momentum.
your session with determination. So I'll spend my determination, since this is pretty important, to automatically make one of the dice a 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will go ahead and spend the momentum to buy another dice. So I got 3 dice to roll.
Okay, so you've got the 1.
So that's 2
You got
successes.
1 successes.
2 6. You buy determination to buy, make it a
right.
1, and I'll make it 2.
Clever.
Yeah.
Okay, and then roll those 3 dice. What's your target number? I'm sorry. What's your
There it is.
What's your roll under number?
It looks like it's going to be a 13, 5 in move and 8 for duty.
Okay.
That's good. I have 3 dice. I rolled a 3, a 12, and an 18.
A 3, a 12, and an 18. So you've got 2 more successes. So you've got the 4 successes.
So I got my 4 successes.
There you go. So tell us and describe for us exactly what happens. I'll give this to you.
As I'm going around and we're tumbling, I managed to get my feet on something, time it right, push off, and grab on what I need to, and crush it with the knife.
Nice. And so you're launching you're launching a Chris knife. Is this correct?
Well, I'm launching myself and then using the knife when I get there.
Okay. So let us remember, as a dyed-in-the-wool Fremen, when the blade is pulled, it must draw blood. So
That's
at
true.
a certain point, before you resheath it, you're going to have to draw blood. But at any rate, you managed to succeed, and as the entire structure is still tumbling, and keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, this is all happening in the fraction of a second, you do manage to free the second Fremen captive. And the structure continues to tumble. And now I'm going to give Diverian a chance to go, unless he's just going to sort of try and roll with it. Or...
No, I guess I'm gonna, maybe I can try to engineer. I do have a move skill with an escape focus. So maybe try to maneuver myself towards that airlock in some way, as to get it open and ready for these guys when they're ready to get there.
Right. Okay.
And
so
maybe as a drive, I have a duty with a statement of, you must watch out for those who watch your back. So with a combination of those two, I want to just get whatever it means to just get that maybe braced and
Get to the airlock, get it
get to the
open, get
airlock and get
ready
it
to.
open.
So as soon as
Get
this
ready to
thing
bring
kind of
these guys out.
stops
Right.
tumbling, you want to like just be like evacuate them as quick as possible.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then what is it? What is it that I guess it's going to be a move as far as your skill goes, and your drive
Yeah.
was what did you say?
The drive was duty.
Move and duty. What's
Yeah.
your target number then? When you
So
add this?
they are both sixes, so
They're
that's
both
a 12.
sixes. Ooh, nice. So you need to score a 12 or below, and you have a focus.
I have a focus and I have a statement.
Okay. All right.
So I'm not sure how that affects it. But
Well, whatever your move is,
yeah,
what's your move rank?
6.
6. Okay, so that means that anything under a 6 counts as a critical, and that's 2
Okay, great.
successes. Okay. So go
Okay.
ahead and make your roll.
How many dice am I rolling?
Oh, so you're rolling 2 dice.
Okay.
Unless you'd like to use some sort of momentum point, or you want to burn threat or something like that and gain an extra die.
Oh, threat.
No, I think I'm okay. I'll roll the 2.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, I haven't set the target number or the.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I
rating.
won't tell you what I rolled.
I'm just going to say to get to the door, it's just a 2.
Yeah.
In this particular case, 2 successes.
Yeah, then I've got it. I got a 5 and a 10. So one is a
Yes.
regular success and one is a critical success. So
Right. Okay, so you got the 3. So you managed to get yourself to that door, grab onto one of the handles, and as you grab
And that earns us a momentum, right? Because you got
that,
one
correct.
over?
Yes, because if you
Okay.
go over that number, you get to gain 1 momentum. And Jarod, can you keep track of momentum for us?
I got it.
Okay, cool. So with that, you grab onto the handle, and what you notice is there's something soft. Even in the tumbling of the structure, there's something soft and vaguely organic about this structure. This is not a normal structure. This is unlike anything you've seen before. And you, as a Fremen, of course, are used to dry sands, or you're used to hard rock, and probably the most exotic tech. Well, you've seen a lot of exotic tech from off-worlders, perhaps like Reese, and it's usually metal. But in this case, there's something almost organic in a way. It's not unlike perhaps the organics of the sandworm.
Does it feel like skin in a way?
It feels like a chitinous kind of covering, not unlike the chitinous covering of the sandworm. But at any rate, this is just a passing, fleeting thought as you grab on and you manage to hold on to this door, get it open, and the structure itself begins to slowly come to a stop. And now it's an absolute mess inside of the structure. And Cardinal Thome, whose massive form once dominated this space, is now just leaning up in a corner, leaning up against a wall, pressed into a corner. And you can actually see that though this is a powerful creature, it's unfortunately under the constraints of perhaps gravity in ways that small forms like yourself are not. And now Thome is trying its best to scramble to its feet. And now it doesn't really have, well, looking at it, maybe there are some feet. You're not really sure. There's also a very long tail that's coming off of the back end of Thome now as you see it. And it's scrambling to get to its feet, and your 2 Fremen friends are both appear to be down and out and groggy as they move to their feet. And you see Diverian, who is at the hatch and beckoning the rest of you to come to it. And I would like to add,
come on.
I would like to add that you still feel the grinding sounds the rumbling earthquake-like sounds of the worm somewhere outside.
Doesn't need to tell me twice. If I'm standing next to one of the one of the Fremen, I'll go ahead and assist him as we rush expeditiously to the door.
So grabbing one of them, perhaps the one that's closest to you, at this point you don't even have to roll for it. The figure is in tattered rags and not wearing a still suit at all, wearing perhaps the undergarments of a Fremen. I'm not sure what they would look like. I'm sure Frank Herbert in the Dune Encyclopedia has a rather lengthy entry on this. I don't know what it is. We're not going to look it up. But you pull them with you. And is someone else grabbing the other one?
We can maybe say Fader's doing it, but
Yeah,
I'm not
sure.
doing it.
Sure.
I'm not. My first duty was to free my fellow tribe, which I've done. But the second is to the Shai Hulud themselves, and this abomination can't stand. He's not worthy. He's not a real Shai Hulud, and he can't become one. So I'm gonna attempt to end this.
Ooh.
So you're going to move for Thome.
Yes.
Okay. Is anyone else doing anything? So Reese, you are aiding someone trying to get them out towards Diverian and the door. Are you guys going to just leave the second Fremen who's kind of groggy on the ground?
No.
Well, I mean, if I'm walking past him, yeah, I can help them both. But
Sure.
I thought that Tyrus was going to be right behind me, so I thought he was going to assist, but apparently not.
Nah, he doesn't have your back in this particular case. Looks like he's up to something else.
Well, I mean, like I said, if I'm walking past the second one, I'll try and help him up or drag him along as well.
We can just say that we can just have you take both of them.
Okay.
And they're both sort of stumbling along, and you're at a little bit of a disadvantage, just in the general sense, not the D&D sense, as you move them along towards Diverian. Diverian, what are you up to?
I'm gonna microwave some popcorn and watch Tyros tear into this sandworm guy.
Okay.
No, I'm just gonna wait and kind of beckon my guys. Come on, we're running out of time.
So why don't we go to Tyros then? So Tyros, you're approaching this creature, which is kind of lethargically. It looks rather stunned, but you're not really sure. This is not something that you've seen before. It moves slowly with arms that are, well, they look quite small. It almost looks like there's a human being. Now that you are approaching it, it looks like there's a human being that's attached to the front end of a worm. But it's a small worm, which is to say it's a huge creature to you.
Right.
And it looks like it's kind of becoming basically atrophying, like the arms and the legs, as it moves slowly, and its eyes have become large now as you see it clearly in the lamp of or I should say in a glow globe that now kind of bounces back and forth as it finds its equilibrium above you. And it's positively frightening. And perhaps to you, it's actually just enhancing the idea that this is some sort of an abomination of man.
Yeah, that's exactly how I'm approaching it. This is a true abomination as I get more and more horrified. And I'll sort of give it a prayer as I approach and try to attack it.
Okay, so as far as conflict goes, what happens with the procedure of conflict is that essentially the player chooses an asset to use in the attack. So do you have a particular asset? Is it the Chris knife, I assume?
It is the Chris knife, absolutely.
Okay. And generally speaking, in the Dune RPG, the player goes first as opposed to the non-player character. And based on the type of the attack, I'm going to choose a skill. And actually, in this case, I'm going to let you, I mean, you're going to obviously choose battle, I assume. Yep. And then you can go ahead and choose your drive.
My drive is going to be faith.
Faith, okay, makes a lot of sense in this particular case. So now you're going to roll against the target. And so in this particular case, I'm actually not going to tell you what the target number is because as far as I'm concerned, this is kind of an unknown entity to you.
Okay.
And you need to garner enough successes to defeat it. If this is a major player, then you may have to get a series of successes. But if this is a minor character, which I think we all kind of know at this point it's not, then one success will dispatch it. So
before we roll,
Mhm.
what does quality of asset do in this game? I don't remember
Oh
what
my
that
God,
piece does.
the quality asset I completely forget. I'm not even going to worry about it. Let's just look
Okay.
at whatever the rating of the asset is. I'm guessing like if it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, you add that to a 2, which is the amount of damage that you do. So if your asset is like a quality of 2, I think you add it to 2, and that gives you 4 damage, and then that goes against the player's relevant skill. And that's kind of like their hit points in a way.
Okay. Okay.
You have to
Because the quality of
deplete
the
them.
yeah, because the quality of the asset for the knife is a 1.
Okay, so that's
I
1.
have a talent that can push it up, but I just read it now. I have to spend momentum, which I have,
Mhm.
but I may use that again for the dice rather than for the damage.
Yeah, basically, whenever you do an attack, it always does 2 points of damage, and then what you
Okay.
do is you add in the value, which I think is the quality of the
Right.
quality of the asset, and that changes the value of what the damage is. So if it's
Okay.
1, I'm going to assume that you do 3
Yeah.
damage, and then that goes against the battle or the relevant HP in this particular
Yeah.
case of the character
Okay.
and non-player character.
Okay. Then I will go ahead and use momentum and get a dice and roll 3.
All right.
I have a focus in battle of short blades,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm trying to get 7 or lower. I rolled 1 5, a 13, and a 15. So that would be 3 successes.
3 successes. Okay. In this particular case, that is a success against this creature. You manage to do 3 points of damage as it lumbers to its feet. To its tail or its body, its thorax. And it clearly does not look happy about this. And so it rises and slithers toward you. And now as it approaches you, it's just immense compared to your size. And it doesn't use its arms. It doesn't use these distorted eyes for anything. It simply slithers and then twists its body toward you. So you're going to have to roll to defend against it. Okay? So what I need you to do is to actually make a roll, and I need you to beat its roll. So go ahead and how are you going to defend against it? I assume it's going to be battle or maybe move. I'll let you kind of make a choice.
Well, since this thing is sort of attempting to change itself into a sandworm,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a lot of study in sandworms. In fact, I have a focus of understand in
Mm-hmm.
sandworms. So I would like to use my understand and use its nature sort of against itself or know how to defend based on its natural movements.
Yep.
So I'm going to use understand, and I guess I'll continue to use faith.
Okay. Go ahead and make the roll. So what's the target number with that?
13.
13. Okay.
But with a focus.
Okay.
I only got 1 success. That is an 11. 111, 118.
Unfortunately, I'm going to say that this is not enough to defend against it, and it ends up doing, in this particular case, it ends up hitting you and doing damage. Oh my God, I've just forgotten. Hold on one second. I forgot how we do damage for you guys.
Same way, right? It goes against my battle or something.
Right. So it does. In this particular case, the asset plus the... Okay, it ends up doing 3 damage
Okay.
toward your battle.
Is my battle actually reduced, or is it just that's just
I
represents what the total
I think it
is?
represents what the total is, but
All right, that's
don't.
fine.
That's what we're gonna say for tonight. So don't even worry about it. We'll go with that. Um,
Okay.
and so with this, let's sort of move back around and see what Diverian and Reese are up to. Are you guys pulling yourselves out of the?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to help Reese with the two other guys
Mm-hmm.
and try to get everybody out.
So Reese, if you're just going along with him,
No, actually, I'm turning around. Tyros, what are you doing?
you have a moment to talk.
This abomination cannot stand.
She
It
doesn't.
must be defeated.
It's like in a comic book. You have a little time.
All right, I'll go ahead and Diverian, just take them. I'm going to try and help.
All right.
So Diverian, are you taking them out?
Yeah, I'm gonna take them. See if they're okay, obviously, but if they can walk on their own. Otherwise, I'll
I'm gonna
kind of sling them over to my shoulder.
say at this point you're able to pull them out, and now you guys are out of the scene. We'll get to you in just a moment. Let's handle Reese and Tyros. So Reese, you're heading back to help.
Yeah, I'm looking around now. Is there any is this sparse? Is it just the two columns of light in an empty room, or I mean, do we have I don't know, electrical equipment? Do we have?
Why don't you tell me? You can tell me what you think. I had envisioned something rather sparse, but that doesn't, just because it's sparse doesn't mean there's nothing in there. There could be
Well, there
things.
has to be some sort of electrical supply, and that's what I'm thinking about. And
I will
some
say
sort of battery that would be fueling these lights or these
sure. And I
cages.
would say that what you see towards the back of the room is some sort of electrical supply coupling of some sort.
Okay.
And if you want to take advantage of that for something, it sounds like you've got
I
an
do.
interesting idea.
Well, what I want to do is I want to try and find the input. I'm going to use it as a weapon. I'm thinking though. I'm using it on the cage itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what we're in amounts to essentially a stomach, and I'm going to see if I can get it to throw us all up.
Oh,
Nice.
I get it. You're gonna okay. Tell us what you're doing then. Tell us exactly what you're up to.
Well, I'm skirting the wall to try and make sure that I'm not part of the actual melee, and finding my way around over to the conduit. I'm trying to think what I would have in my pack that could assist, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to try and rip out the conduit leading into the box to try and get a live wire that I'm just going to turn around and shove right into the wall.
Okay, sounds great. You know what? I'm not even gonna make you roll for this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna make your roll against a 1.
Okay.
Against a 1. So go ahead and put your skill, put your drive together, and then tell me what your target number is, and make that roll.
Well, the target number is not going to be very good because I am trying to understand how this alien technology is put together. Granted, I have an advantage over other Fremen, but still, my understand is 4. But I am also bound by duty, and that's essentially it. I'm trying to make sure that I don't leave anybody behind. So law and duty are 1. Both of them together is a 10.
Okay.
I got a 3 and a 4, so 2 successes.
Nice.
Okay, no problem. So you're able to do this, and your intuition actually proves it
Flawed.
proves interestingly not exactly what you're expecting here. And the moment that you do manage to cause this sort of short circuit or this electrical, there is a rippling. It's an impulse. It's an involuntary convulsion of the structure itself, and you feel it ripple through the walls. And as a matter of fact, it launches all of you off your off of your feet into the air. Same thing happens with Cardinal Thome, who is knocked sideways in this particular case. And as this happens, it actually ejects Diverian and the two Fremen captives out into the sand. And I'm not going to say what they're seeing right now, but they're just pushed out. And so when this happens, there's a moment of quiet and what you realize, and then almost of a trembling that you feel in the deck plates, if that is indeed what they are, or in the surface of this interior, which is now like on its side, and like those two columns of light are now going horizontally as opposed to vertically. There's a trembling, and the creature, Cardinal Thome, as it was introduced to you, turns, and now the two of you see Thome for what Thome really is, which is not quite as strong, or not quite as brave, or not quite as powerful as you once thought. And there's something in Thome's eyes. You can see the humanity behind them. And at this point, what I'd like you both to do is make a skill check. Make a check for understand. And this is rather unusual. I know that usually you're supposed to choose your own drive, but I'm going to say truth. Make an understand and truth roll.
I actually had a pretty good chance. I had an 11. I better odds, but I rolled a 16 and a 17.
You botched it. Sorry, Larry.
Oh, boy.
We're not playing Cypher, Larry.
I had an 11, and I rolled an 11 and an 8, so I got 2.
2 successes, and you don't have like a focus or anything like that in either one of those.
Well, I have 2 focuses in understand. One's in geology and one's in sandworms.
Oh, sand. Okay.
But
Jarod.
I missed. It's an understand 6, so I rolled over it anyway.
Right. You recognize the eyes that you look at, Tyros. And it doesn't make any sense. But what you recognize is a Fremen from hundreds of years in the past that disappeared into the desert, seeking a marriage between the worm, the spice, and off-worlder technology. And it's a very faint legend that was actually more like a children's story, told to children just to frighten them, like a bedtime story. But there's something about this situation, those eyes, not that you know who they are, but there's something about this situation that reminds you of that old bedtime story about the Fremen that left the tribe hundreds of years before in order to seek out adventure off-world. And now as it turns towards you, you see that it is interested more in science and technology than it is in doing harm or causing harm. And the one simple blow that you delivered was enough to bring it to not surrender, but to call back its aggression. Even though it could easily overpower the two of you, it's not interested necessarily in that. And now, with that, let's go to Diverian, outside. You've just been ejected with your 2 Fremen companions. And as you're spat up into the dusts of Arrakis, there is a tremendous dust storm that is being kicked up. And you can feel the sand rumbling beneath your feet, and you have to actually keep yourself keep moving your hands up, keep moving your knees up, keeping them above the sand levels as the drum sand vibrates beneath you. And what you recognize is that you're on the precipice or on the edge of perhaps the spot where that sandworm was coming up, and you can smell the spice in the sand as 100 feet away, perhaps, which is perilously close in this case. 100 feet away, the worm comes up and emerges out of the sand and begins to ingest the harvester that was there on the ground just moments before. And you can see security members and other members of the smugglers band as they're just like sinking into the maw of the worm. What would you like to do?
I would like to run.
I would like to get as far away as possible. This is
Yeah.
actually I am not going to make you roll for this. I suppose I could, but I think we've done a lot of rolling tonight. I just want to like move things along. I think the story's cooler that way. You're able to move and not too far off, and I had described this earlier on in the past game. There is a rocky outcropping that you could kind of make your way for. And now, are you going to
Yeah.
help? Here's the thing where I'm going to ask you to roll. Are you going to help your two companions?
Yes. I'm not going to leave them behind.
So I'm going to give you a roll, a challenge level of 1 to help them.
Okay.
So I'd like you to make a move, or perhaps, yeah, a move, or I might be willing to call it a battle skill with
All right. Either
drawing.
one.
Okay.
Either one is fine.
All right.
They're the same level, and then justice maybe.
I like that, or maybe faith.
Yeah. Well, I would do faith then.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do faith.
Whichever's higher.
Yeah. So faith and battle, and I roll 2 dice.
Yeah. What's your target number when you add them together?
Faith and battle would be 11.
Okay. Go ahead and make your roll.
I rolled a 13, which is a failure, and a 2, which is a success.
This is 1 success. And so I was
Correct.
asking for a target number of 1 and 1 success. You're barely able to get those two companions over to you. You pull the first one along, and you think that the second one was actually okay, so you're not helping them out. And you get them to the rocky outcropping, and then you turn around and you realize that actually that first one had stumbled along, and you can see the worm as it does almost a barrel roll, and the sand begins to collapse. And so one more time you roll back there, or you run back there, and you grab that companion, and then you drag them to the rocky outcropping, and you watch as the worm is just taking down that spice harvester. And there's the smell of spice in the air, and you can smell the breath of the worm, this thick kind of pungent odor. It's the smell of essentially like a digested spice, which is just slowly changing, slowly morphing into something else, something to fuel the worm and even heat. And so with that, you and your two companions manage to stay on the rocky outcropping. And there with you, beside you, is Reese, who's calling out. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, never mind. And so with that, you're safe now. I'm going to give you a moment. You can kind of see that the structure is kind of on the precipice. It's probably okay, and there are several other structures like in rings and tents and things like that, and people are running to and fro. And as you look around, you see a few vehicles, like a few ornithopters that have taken off, and a few things that appear like to be dropships that were smaller dropships that were parked that are now in basically hovering above to stay safely out of worm range with that. Are you up to anything, or?
No, I guess I'm just going to look back on whatever I can see. I guess I won't be able to see inside anymore. but just keep an eye out on the airlock to see when these guys come out.
Okay.
And be ready to help them out, and then I mean also tend to these other guys, make sure, because I guess we're out exposed now, but they're not wearing any suits.
That is the
So
danger at this point.
yeah,
And now the thing is that they're not wearing suits. They're basically in undergarments, rags, essentially.
hmm
And you can see already it is somewhere in mid-afternoon, which is the
yeah.
cooler time, but on the other hand, cooler in plus 100 degree, 110 degree weather is not.
So maybe I'll scan around this area and see if there's anything resembling some kind of tarp or something that I could make into a makeshift structure to just kind of get them out of the exposure.
So why don't you go ahead and make for me we'll call it an understand roll, and then you can combine
Okay.
it with whatever drive you'd like, and we'll see what we can come up with. And I'm going to
We'll
set
do an.
the challenge at 1.
All right, we'll do.
You have the Fremen kit?
The what?
The Fremen kit? I mean, there's a still tent that's part of the whole Fremen.
Part of the Frem kit, yeah.
Yeah. Fremen kit.
I don't have that as an asset. I don't know if we start with anything like that, but I did not have anything like that.
Let's say that you would have. I'm
Okay.
not going to say you don't have it, but do you think you would have brought it along on this mission, or would you kind of
I mean,
shed it
I'm
to
sure.
be
I'm
light?
sure if we were going out, we were going out for days, so I would imagine I would.
Well, that's kind of what I meant. Is what do you think?
Yeah.
Like you would have had it, so that part I'm sure of. But now, when you were going down into the encampment, to the smugglers' encampment, to get it, would you have shed it just to be sort of light and real quick, or would you have taken it with you? You tell me.
Like how big? How big are these packs?
It's 400 pounds.
Yeah, right. No, I think I probably would have shed it if because we were going in as like a commando mission. So yeah, I probably would not have brought it.
Okay.
Would be my guess. So I'll just have to scrounge around and see what there is available.
Okay. So go ahead
All
and
right.
make that. See if you can make that 1.
So
understand.
You said we'll do understand and truth maybe.
Understand and truth. Okay.
So that's a 12.
That sounds pretty cool.
So I rolled so understand and truth is 12. I rolled a 6 and an 11.
A 6 and an 11. So both of those are successes. Yep. Looking around, you tell me what you find. I mean, I have an idea, but you tell me.
Yeah, I'm guessing that I'm able to find maybe some maybe stuff that's like metal pallets or something like that, and then maybe some kind of material that they would use to tie stuff, some tarp stuff maybe. So things kind of maybe like metal piping or something. Yeah. And I'll get to work just creating something to protect it from wind.
Yes.
And keep these guys behind it, and the sun.
The harsh desert sun. Sure.
Yeah.
So you're able to begin to fashion that, and at this point, the two of them look like they're in no real condition at this point to sort of talk to you.
Okay.
They look rather stunned by everything that's gone on. And we'll talk about whether or not you recognize these two in just a moment. So let's cut back to Reese and Tyros, who are inside the structure, and now you're looking into the eyes of this creature that reminds you of a legendary creature from Fremen stories told to children. And as a matter of fact, that name, Thome, seems awfully familiar. So at this point, it doesn't appear that Thome is a threat to you. You're alone with Thome. What would you like to do? Excellent. Thank you. Excellent. Very good.
I've been going back and forth the last couple minutes. I recognize that he's changed his demeanor, and I guess I recognize that, put together, what you've already explained so far. I just don't know if I can let this stand. I just don't know if I can let this thing continue to exist.
Thome slips. Thome leans forward. And now, one thing that you don't see in Thome is cowardice. So those eyes perhaps reveal someone who is not a fighter, but that doesn't mean they're a coward. And Thome, their voice deep, begins to speak. It has been so long since I've seen Fremen. I meant them no harm, I only meant to enlighten them to the Strictian way. And now when they say Strictian, just to sort of remind people, there were rumors earlier on of a cult in the desert that followed a person by the name of Greyhawk Strict. Oh my God, it wasn't Greyhawk. It was Greyshaw. Greyhawk. Oh my God, Ed Greenwood, or I'm sorry, TSR. Please don't sue me. That I understand that's your intellectual property. I'm not trying to claim it for my own. Oh my God, I just realized I have like the Dune logo above me and all this other stuff. So at this point, I'm just digging my own grave. But anyway, Greyshaw Strict, who is a man rumored to have be a kind of a quasi-religious cult leader that's taken up residence out in the deep desert. And this cult has supposedly 1,000 members, and they are overseen by basically a college of cardinals. And now you realize that what you're looking at is one of the cardinals here. Thome leans forward and says to you, "Please, it's been so long. I only come here to enlighten you. I wasn't going to hurt them. You must hear the good word. You must hear it. Brothers, join me. We are on the same side."
I'll say we already know the true word. The Shai Hulud themselves give us the true word. Your word has always been false. That is why you are excluded and off on your own. You should have stayed there.
Anything, Reese, or are you just going to allow the conversation to go on?
I'm gauging between them. I mean, essentially, I'm still kind of an outsider. I know that the Strictians are relatively shunned as kind of a perversion of the Fremen way, but I'm still holding, by the rubber sheath around it, the electrical cord, getting, as in case I need to step forward. But
Thome looks then and turns to you, Reese. I recognize an off-worlder when I see one, an off-worlder that blends the ways of the Fremen and the ways of off-worlders to find a peace and a harmony. Surely you would like to hear more about what the Strictians are doing.
surely not, friend. I am not a blending. I am not a blending of off-world and Fremen. I had to take on and assume the Fremen ways, and I'm no more a blend than anybody else here. I just don't have the same blood. You Strictians you've perverted the Fremen way.
Why don't you guys both make understand rolls to see exactly how much or what you think of the Strictian way? And I would assume that it's maybe faith, because like it's your faith in the Fremen way is kind of. But I mean, you can choose what you want.
Well, faith and understand gives me a grand total of 8, but I rolled a 2, so. I rolled 2 dice, right?
Yes.
18. 218.
218, so 1 success.
Right.
And
faith and understanding for me is 13, and that's a 10 and an 8, so I guess 2.
So a 2. So Tyros, what you recognize or what you say remember about the rumors is that Greyshaw Strict as I mentioned before, seems to have, by rumor, taken up residence in the deep desert with 1,000 cult members. So these cult members believe in the fusing of mind, body, technology, and spice in order to conquer the laws of space-time. And they see Grayshaw himself, or itself, as the holy emperor of a new universal order of mankind. And those would be the Strictians. And they see, basically, the rumors are that they see all of the fighting between the houses, between the different guilds, between, like, the Spice King Guild, the Transportation Guild, as just simple, like, just completely unnecessary arguments between men. And they believe in recreating a new order, a new universal order of mankind, with nothing between mankind and the spice. So this is your basic knowledge of what Grayshaw Strict is doing. And what you see before you is one of his carnivals, one of his cardinals. And the cardinal is essentially one of the leaders, one of the elders, who is converting themselves to be a worm. And you realize that those old stories about Fremen leaving the tribe, well, this one, in this case, might be true. Who the other cardinals are, that's something you don't know. But this one wants you to join them, at least by what they're saying. Leave behind these silly bickerings. House Harkonnen, House Atreides, House Carino. We are all one. We live in the same house. We live in the known universe. Join us and be one with us. Just because there are not many of us does not mean that our views are not genuine or legitimate or honest or true. Surely you must both know this.
No, as a matter of fact, I place tremendous amount of value in the autonomy of the individual. And history has no shortage of cults.
Is that why you are part of a tribe then?
I'm an individual cog in a smaller tribe, yes. But it's still individual. I am still myself.
And you, Fremen, what about the blood on the Chrysnise blade? You still hold it in your hand. Will you take your own blood and resheath it, or are you going to try to kill me? Make your decision.
The first blow that I already struck didn't actually put any blood on it.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's true. Touche. Touche. Using an old language from Europe.
I don't think French is dead yet. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I'll say I don't have to kill you now. What is your purpose here? What do you want with these captured Fremen, and what do you want with these smugglers?
We come for the spice, of course. But as you know, we are outcasts, and we cannot show our true faces, and so we cardinals represent the Strictians, and we use the smugglers as our pawns, of course.
How many other smugglers are you involved with?
Smugglers all across Arrakis. I couldn't tell you exactly how many. I'm not going to reveal that to you. Not that there's anything you could do about it, but there are smuggling operations all over Arrakis. It is a large planet. But it is the one planet which the spice can be found. We've developed new ways, new abilities, new powers, unlike the Bene Gesserit witches, unlike the navigators of the Spicing Guild, unlike the simple addicts that you see walking through Arrakis City with their blue within blue eyes. If you come with us, we can show you technologies beyond your wildest dreams. Ships that fold not just space, but time. And as he says this, he raises one of those hands. And it's not in a threatening move. It's this weak, kind of emaciated hand that he raises. And in front of all of you, there's a bit of a bubble, a swirling bubble, like a whirlpool of light. And what you realize you're looking at is a distortion of space-time. And now you're actually looking back and you're watching the events of what has just happened through this tunnel playing back in reverse. And you can see the tumbling go backward. You can see the Fremen go back into their containment columns. You can see Thome moving backward in time as he goes back to his hiding spot in the rear of the cabin of the structure. But it's a rather limited view, and it's a very small, it's as if you were looking through like a little telescope, so you can't really see what's going on around it.
Was I able to determine what caused that view? Was it a device? Was it something else?
That's a roll. That sounds like a roll to me.
Perfect.
So I'm going to say the skill is probably understand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can come up with some other reason, for something else, I'm willing to listen to it.
No, I think understand is fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess truth is probably the right one.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. That's only an 11. Let's see what happens. 8 and a 13. So I got one success.
One success. This looks real. It looks like you're looking back through a small tunnel in time. Now, this is not like a giant thing. This is like a 1 foot area, and you kind of have to peek in to look. But you're looking
Right. But what
through-
I'm interested in is what created the effect. Right. Does it look like it came from a device somewhere? Does it look like he just sort of made it appear
you
out of
detect
thin air, almost
no
like
device.
magic, if you will? Okay.
You detect no device.
Okay.
Anything, Reese?
No, I look impressed. Can you change it?
Can I change what has already happened?
I nod.
And Thome shakes, if you can call it a head. It's just like it's more like a vestigial movement than anything else. And it looks like this face kind of looks like it's trying to shake itself back and forth, and it answers no, and then simply leans into you and smiles.
Then it's
Not yet, anyway.
Then it's a parlor trick.
This is no parlor trick. And now the image of this telescoping bit of space-time collapses, and there's almost a small, like a clicking sound or a snap as it disappears. And you almost feel some sort of distortion in, you presume, is space-time. And Thome smiles. It's a simple thing, but it's not a trick. Come with us. Come with us and learn these simple things. Let's unite the universe under one tribe. So with this moment, Let's go to a break. Um, So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 10-minute break. I'll run a countdown sequence, and we'll be back in 10 minutes with the second half of Dune Overture Part 2, where we will be finishing up our adventure. If you like what you see, however, please do think about liking and subscribing. Every like and subscription helps us out, or even better yet, go ahead and share this with someone if you like an episode or maybe another one. So we'll be back in 10 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. See you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are back for the second half of our second game, which is the conclusion of Dune Overture. And when last we left our heroes, they were facing a moral conundrum, which was a moral conundrum to varying degrees, depending on which character they were playing. Maybe for some it was clear cut. So, gentlemen, why don't we actually do this? We ended with Tyros and Reese. So why don't we go back to Diverian?
Okay.
And Diverian, let's just say that out there you see a worm, which has now actually pulled, or I should say, sucked in the spice harvester, perhaps a dozen smugglers and other figures, and some tents and other structures, parts of the encampment, and is just literally like swallowing these things whole, along with just thousands of tons of sand that it's ingesting. And now, if this were anyone else, if these were off-worlders, though, if you were an off-worlder watching this, you would be stunned and in awe of this, just speechless. But for you, a Fremen, of course, this is all part of living within the desert. Um, so tell me, at this point, I mean, I kind of have some ideas of what I wanted to do next, but is there something in particular that you are up to
Well, I now that
after
I
you've created the shelter?
yeah, after I put up the shelter and feel like these guys are somewhat secure, I divert back to the encampment where my party is still inside,
Hmm.
which I'd hoped they would be out by now.
Yeah.
Um, like what's obscuring me? Is it just a giant worm in between me and them at this
Um,
point?
at this point, it is a giant worm that is in between you and them, but the worm has not fully surfaced at this point. However, it's kind of in the process of pulling out.
Does there seem to be any path to get there without dying?
You No. However, you are a Fremen. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do, but it would not be beyond you to leap over the worm.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you have any maker hooks, and of course I'm not sure if our viewers are familiar with maker hooks, but they are the hooks that are used in order to they go between the plates or the rings of the worm, and then they open it up in order to get the worm to turn to the surface so that it can be ridden. Um, Conceivable?
I imagine that's like a rite of passage for many Fremen, that I've
Yeah.
done it before.
Yes.
So
You would.
yeah, let's try that. Just not to necessarily control the worm,
Yeah.
but to to get over to the
Hmm.
other side.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So why don't we call this? Well, you know what? I'm gonna let you call it what you want. It could be communicate in that you're sort of becoming one with the worm. It could be discipline in that you need to sort of hold your fear. Could be move. Could be understand. Probably not battle, but
Yeah,
what do you
let's
think is
call it communicate,
okay?
and maybe power.
Okay. And what's your
Um,
target number when you add those
my
two
target
together?
number with those is a 15, so
Ooh.
that's my hedge against dying.
Right.
And I will, because I have a feeling this is a difficult. Do you tell me what the difficulty is?
I
Are you
am
supposed to tell me?
technically supposed to tell you what the difficulty is. So
I mean,
on a
I was going to use a momentum regardless because I want to roll 3 dice.
I'm gonna say this. I mean, you're not used to. I'm gonna say this. You're on solid ground now. You've had a moment to
Hmm.
sort of recover, not a long moment, but a moment. You have, of course, this is a rite of passage. This is something that all Fremen can do. I mean, at a certain age. And so you've done this before. You've probably done this, not it's not like a regular thing, but you might have done this a few times in your life. And so I'm going to call it a 2
Okay.
to not die.
I will still use the
Yes,
I will still
recommend that.
use the third die, the
It's
momentum
a
die.
good idea.
All right. So I kind of get over to the edge of the rocky precipice and
Yep.
kind of time it as this thing's kind of shifting back and forth.
Yep.
And then I leap
What's the number you're going for again?
15.
15.
And it was communicate, which none of the focuses really apply. But I did roll 3 successes.
Cool.
Yeah, a 5, a 4, and a 13.
Okay.
Wow.
So you needed, actually, I was going to call it 2.
Okay, so I get my momentum back.
So you get
basically.
1 extra, you get your momentum back, right? So
Right.
you get that
Excellent.
sort of group. What is the momentum at, Jarod, with that?
We're at 1.
1. Okay, so 1. All right, so it was a wash. You're able to leap and bound over the worm. And you place your maker hooks, which I don't know if you had them or not, but maybe you do something makeshift and you manage to get it. And you use the worm turning to your advantage. And the worm actually turns as it's moving. And you ride that over and then remove the hooks and you drop down. And about 100 feet out from you is that structure, which is off on its side. Now, here's the interesting thing. As you're taken, and I'll give you the chance to sort of change the pattern here, but as you get to the top of the worm, what you notice are several ships dropping down out of orbit, or at least you assume it's orbit, but out of the sky. And they're running the length of the worm and coming in hard and fast. And it looks like they're, in a way, spreading out in a way that they're covering the length of the worm.
They're trying to take it.
If that's what you think it is, that might be what it is. Now, do you want to hop down off the worm, or are you going to do something here?
No, I think having seen this, I'm going to try to hard tack the worm, basically in the opposite direction of where these drop ships are to confuse them.
Okay, let's call this. What do you want to call it? Understand or communicate? Like communicate with the worm? Discipline to understand?
I would say let's try understand, because I'm trying to get it to. I'm trying to give it a command, I guess.
Yeah.
So understand, and
just to throw this out here, Steve, if you want, there is a focus of Worm Rider, and it's under move. If that changes your decision at all,
wouldn't I have to have taken it before?
Right.
You would have, but I'm just saying it traditionally kind of goes with move rather than communicate. If you that means anything.
So you think?
You know
you think it's more of a move thing? Yeah,
move is sort of the default.
Okay. I think that's fair. And maybe again power, just because I would imagine that it would take a lot of effort to do this.
What's that set your number at?
Puts me at 14.
14. I'm going to call this a 2. Success of 2 to divert.
All right. Then we'll do the same thing as last time. Is that okay? Can I do the momentum again, or am I not allowed?
Yep.
Okay.
No problem.
All right. So there's 3. Ooh. I got a 10, which is good. And then I got a 16, and then I got a 20.
Oh.
Like a bug on a windshield.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, hey, it's your intrusion, my friend. Or complication.
Monty Cook, don't sue us for that.
Complication. I'm
Intrusions, I would like to say, are the express intellectual property of Monty Cook and Monty Cook Games. We are not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with that. Modiphus, Monty Cook Games, totally separate entities. I hope Nobody sues. I see myself like in a movie, we would cut to me in court with like Monty Cook on one side and Modiphus on the, or like with Modiphus, like together, like basically prosecuting me. But anyway, um, you turn the worm.
Mm-hmm.
However, with the turn, unfortunately, you exert a little bit too much force, and the
Oh
worm
no.
then emerges from beneath the sand. And this is something glorious and amazing ordinarily to witness. However, what you realize you've done is expose the worm to these drop ships, which are now lowering themselves. And you can see almost like these prehensile kind of, well, art, kind of articulated arms that move down and unfold from underneath the belly of these ships. And there's perhaps a dozen of them now that you can kind of see that are just
Hmm.
sort of emerging from the dusk. As dusk comes, you can see them dropping down out of the sky. And they begin to fire their these cable-like devices down into the sand, and they begin to burrow, kicking up sand on either side, immense geysers of it, like taller than small mesas that you've seen in the desert. Um, and you realize that what you're looking at is some sort of, you're confirming what you suspected, and that is that these dropships are here to take the worms. For what purpose, you don't know. But unfortunately, by attempting to steer the worm, you've actually helped
Hmm.
these off-worlders to take this creature. Let's cut back to Tyros and Reese, who are now facing a moral conundrum. What is your response to all of this?
What was the last thing that he basically said?
So, Larry, or I'm sorry, Reese, would you like to
Join
fill
the
us
dark
in?
side. That was the last
Yes,
thing.
join
the dark side.
us, and together we will unite the galaxy. And I know it should be rule the galaxy, but in this case, it's unite the galaxy under one tribe.
Right.
Then my response is to sort of sigh at this a little and say, uh, if your movement and if your group is so widespread as you say it is, and so sort of interconnected and in bed with these other off-worlders as you say they are, I am a little tempted to go, but just to be the double agent, just to get the information back to the tribe. Right? You are definitely an abomination. They continue to tell stories about you and other people that like you that have left, right? To scare children, to keep them on the true path. It's nice to see that those stories are validated by your presence here. And I think you would serve much better as a physical proof of these perversions rather than just imaginary. And I go and attack them.
Nice.
Reese, do you have anything to say before combat begins?
Well, I was going to say, have you seen yourself in a reflective surface lately? But instead, I go, oh, my punchline's gone. I'm going to try and pull as much of the conduit as I can and stretch it out and electrocute the heck out of them.
Okay, the heck out of, now wait, the structure, right?
Not out of the walls this time. This time I'm trying to actually grab as much wire as I can to actually hit the creature.
Okay, so just to sort of clarify
The
for
cardinal,
those,
sorry.
right,
The friar.
right, Cardinal
The
Foam.
Pope, whatever he is.
So just to sort of clarify what happens here, the order of action, I want to say the order of operations is the teacher in me. But basically, I pick the first character to act, and usually it's a PC. In this case, I'm going to allow both Jarod and Larry to decide who wants to go first. And then what's going to happen is once one of them goes, they're going to have a choice. I will pick the NPC, which is going to be Cardinal Thome, to go next. But if they want to steal a turn, they can spend 2 points of momentum or add 2 threat points to the pool. And if they do that, then they can keep the initiative and go twice in a row. So how would you gentlemen like to do this? Would you, I mean, who wants to go first? There's
I'm
there's no
Tyrus.
rolling. You just choose.
Yeah, I'm hoping to go first.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
He announced
Is this considered a new scene? So that I can use dedication to try and get a momentum point?
I'm going to say no. I know that I like to cut back and forth between different scenes, but this is all one extended scene that's been broken up into smaller shots.
Fair
if you
enough.
will. Okay. So no, it's not. So
Okay.
whatever you had before is still in effect.
Okay, that's fine. Well, our pool is at 0, considering it was just spent last time to roll a 20. So
You can take threat.
I'm going to actually give you a threat and to get
Those
another
are my
dice.
players. Those are my players. So we already had, just to let everybody know, I start with 2 points of threat for every player. So I have 6 points. But I think it can't go over 6. Isn't that correct? Or is there a limit? I mean, is there not a limit? I'll call it. Okay, I'll just
I
say
don't know.
limit's 2. The limit's 2, I think.
The limit
-4.
is 0.
0.
-4.
The limit is
It's
0.
gonna be
I'll just say
negative
there's
threat.
6. I'll give it to you. Two points of threat. We'll just say that. Okay, so you're spending
I'm
2
kidding.
points of threat. To give yourself an automatic 1. Is that correct? Which counts as 2 successes.
Oh, okay.
Is that what
That'll
you're
work.
doing?
Yeah, let's do that. I was just trying to get one more die, but if that's the way the threat works to get an automatic 1, let's do that.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Even I know I'm not going to allow myself to be kind of like taken like this. Let's just take a look here. So you're spending threat. So with threat, you can buy it. Oh, you're right. You can buy a D20. The first die is 1 threat point. So you can spend 1 threat point. If you want to buy a second one, it's 2 points.
And
So
then
you're
3.
buying 2 dice, right? I
I
mean,
was gonna
you're
buy
spending
1.
1. Okay, so 1 threat point. Is that all
Yeah.
you'd like?
For this roll, yeah, let's see what happens.
Notice
how
how I'm
does the
smiling.
threat
I'm like,
point
is that
hurt
all
us?
you'd like? Would you like to spend more and give me more threat? Okay, so you're buying 1.
1. So I'm
Okay,
rolling 3
so you're
dice.
rolling 3.
Yep.
Your target number is what?
We're gonna go 15. This is battle and duty.
Okay.
And I gotta focus with my short blades.
Okay, which has a rank
target then of 7.
7.
So
Okay,
7
so
and below
7 and
crits.
below is 2. Okay.
Yeah. That was worth it. That was a 2, a 6, and an 11. So that's
Nice.
5 successes.
So you've already succeeded in attacking Cardinal Thome once.
Yep.
You barrel forward. Tell us the finishing move to destroy Thome.
I guess it kind of sort of blends in my knowledge of how he's going to move and react as his worm components sort of take over. And I'll kind of give him a little feint and then go the other way and take the head clean off, assuming he ends up running.
You're saying the vestigial head, right?
Yeah.
Not because the worm head is like, I mean, you're going to be sitting there for about 20 minutes cutting through something that's like 8 feet across.
Right. Now let's go with the remnants of the human head.
So,
which I'm assuming is what's been communicating with us, correct?
The remnants,
not the worm.
Well, let's just say that it's more complex than that, according to the Dune Encyclopedia. Page 225, paragraph 7, subline line 2. According to that, you've just disconnected the vestigial head, which doesn't do the predominant thinking. However, it is enough to cause a loss of blood, which essentially takes Cardinal Thome out. And with almost anticlimactic in an anticlimactic moment. He just slumps forward and he's gone. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so sorry. I hate it when they do this, but I also kind of love it.
You love it.
They're
You love it.
putting so Larry just looked up vestigial and he put like the entire like dictionary
Whole
meaning in there.
Wikipedia section, yeah.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Just to taunt me and to make me laugh. And to throw me off. So at any rate, you do end up severing the head, but what you notice is that the body continues to fight because the worm is really taken over at that point. And if anything, it makes it worse. But there's so much blood loss, the worm falls forward. And as I mentioned, it's anticlimactic. And now the confrontation is over.
Yeah. Let's
Anything
get out and check our
What
compatriots.
before I go, what else is
Are you
Not
gonna
to,
like
you know,
search his pockets?
yeah, not to loot the body, but what can I take from him that is a representation of who he is and what he
His
says he is? Is
vestigial
it
head.
more than just the head, or
Right.
his vestigial wallet?
No, you don't want it. That's atrophy. It means atrophy.
Do you
Find
guys
14
know?
vestigial pieces.
Have you guys ever watched or read Dune? It's mirthless. I don't understand what all of this humor is about. So sorry, I was the one that said searches for his wallet or whatever it was.
I mean, I'll bring
Tell
the head,
me,
but I
why
want
don't
a
you
piece.
tell me what you're looking for? I kind of know what you're getting at here, but be specific, and I will suggest for you something because I think you can grab it, whatever it is, whatever you're looking for. What are you looking for specifically? The two of you have a moment to talk, very quick moment, but a moment because you just feel like you feel the thunder as the worm erupts out of the sand,
Okay.
and you're not really sure, but you think the Fremen in you hears the turning of the worm's body in the sand. So
Is
this
there anything then that sort of represents, I guess, the station of being a cardinal? Any sort of indication on there that we
His
can
mitre?
or anything
a-
that represents the rest of his organization? One of the two.
I will say there is a new universal Bible, very small, that
Okay.
was perhaps kept in a pouch that was maybe again around like wrapped maybe over like a shoulder that was barely poking out and going around to its waist. When you look through the pouch, a new universal Bible, a Strictian Bible, which is perhaps a Bible that was outlawed as blasphemy, not just by the Fremen, but by the Imperium, who were in fear of this new religion that was spreading through the Imperium. So you're able to grab that, and you would imagine that you would take it on faith that whatever sort of entries it has within it, and passages and verses and all that, they're probably not something that's favorable or something that other Fremen would obviously see as blasphemous and as
Right.
abomination.
Right. Okay.
While Tyros is searching the body, I'm looking for our compatriots' still suits, whether or not they're like thrown in the corner, or there might be a cabinet that they're held in, or something along those lines.
I'm gonna say searching it. Let me just check 1 second here. I'm gonna look and see what I wrote about that. There's nothing as far as still suits go.
Okay.
Within
Just
the
thought I'd check
structure.
before
Is
we
there
left.
anything else you're kind of looking for, or
That was what I was looking for.
everything is kind of tumbled and thrown into disarray? You could search, and I would allow you to search, but it would take a moment because things are in such disorder at this point.
Okay.
And now let's go.
Okay, so the two of you are heading out.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep.
so then in that case, Diverian, You are doing what at this point? So those drop ships or the carriers or suborbitals or whatever you want to call them have now sort of come into view, and there's perhaps a dozen of them or so, and they're moving into different spots, and they've just fired these kind of arms or these cables around, which are now burrowing and digging down into the sand, and you can almost hear like a muffled, I would say a click. If it were a small piece, it would be a click. If they were small arms or tethers or whatever these things are, it would be a small click. But this is a boom that resonates up through the desert sands, and everything shakes, and even the worm itself trembles because it knows probably that there's something that's going on now. And 6 of these cables are beneath. Are you up to anything at this point?
For scale, how big are these cables? Are they the type that I could wrap my arms around? Are they like what's their
You could barely get your arms around them.
So they're really that big? Yeah.
Yeah, they're huge. They're immense.
Yeah. I am going to look for a way down off of the worm.
I'll let you just hop down. I mean, you could easily get off. So what's going to happen is this. To let viewers and let you know, just in case, or my players know, in case they've forgotten, essentially what happens when you turn the worm or when you ride the worm is that you insert a maker hook into the worm, and you're separating the rings of it, which causes like an irritation because the rings form a seal that keeps the desert sand and other debris from entering. And the worm gets irritated by this. So it turns, it surfaces, and then it turns to put at its top where the opening is, right? So that's how they're ridden. And so the worm will stay above the sand because it doesn't want the sand to enter between the rings. So at this point, you're on top, and if you yank out, we're going to say you had maker hooks, but if you yank the maker hooks out, then it will possibly.
It can burrow again. Yeah.
It can, assuming these cables don't hold it or prevent it.
All right. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do to give it the chance at least to escape. That's the plan. And then I'll try to leap off of it in the direction of where these guys' airlock is.
Right. So you're going to leap off toward the structure.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't even have to make a roll for this. You just remove the hooks, and then you hop down off the side and maybe kind of like take yourself down, and you grab onto the chitinous kind of like surface of the worm, and you ride, or you hop from like platform to platform as if, you know, riding the textures of the exoskeleton of the worm until you make it to the desert, and you tumble end over end safely away from the worm. And the worm almost, you can kind of feel it. It heaves a sigh of relief after you've removed the maker hooks, and you sheathe them into your backpack. And the worm begins to turn again, righting itself, and then starts to burrow. But at this point, you can hear the engines of these drop ships, these dozen drop ships, that begin to spin up at an incredible high pitch, and they begin to lift into the sky above the desert sands. And as you tumble end over end and right yourself, and this is all happening, you see Reese and Tyros, who emerge from within the structure. So at this point, I'm going to allow the three of you, and of course Fader, who is here as well, to sort of have a discussion about what you're going to do. And just to remind you, you now have 2 Fremen that are on the rocks. And by the way, you have 2 hostages which are still being, or not hostages, you have 2 captives that are still held back in a still tent somewhere, a dune or 2 over.
Well, in the cave. We found the cave.
In the cave, that's right. So you have a moment.
How do we stop them?
Yeah, are there any weapons we can use that is in this camp?
There is, immediately looking around the camp, one ornithopter that seems grounded, that hasn't lifted off.
Is there an intercontinental ballistic missile with a nuclear warhead
There's a worm
anywhere?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'll tell these guys there's ships out there and they're trying to take the worm.
And now you can kind of hear those dynamo, the engines as they're spinning up. You thought they were high pitched. Yeah. They're getting even higher.
Reese, do you know how to fly an ornithopter?
I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've had no need to fly an ornithopter before, but I don't think we need anything so elaborate. I'm going to rip off a piece of tarp from whatever's flying around, mm-hmm. and find a larger stone that I'm going to try and fashion a sling out of. What I'm trying to do is I mean, if it's close enough, I want to, where the actual metal cables going into the gears, I want to try and inhibit that somehow by seizing that gear, at least not so much that it will destroy it, but it might get it to overheat, because it sounds like it's exerting a lot of energy right now.
Okay, are you talking about the drop ships above the worm?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that they had to get pretty close in order to grab it that quickly.
They are fairly close, but they're not close enough for you to like throw something. Like imagine throwing, like imagine there's a helicopter above you, and it's like, I'm gonna guess just roughly 10 stories up above you. Imagine trying to throw something up at it. That's how I had envisioned.
Well, yeah, I mean, if with my bare, I mean, with an arm, certainly, but I mean, a sling, yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm spitballing.
I know. I'm desperate. I like.
But we have to find something that's going to seat that engine.
This was a spice mining operation.
I will allow you to make a understand check to look at the layout, remember the layout of what this spice mining operation looked like.
Well, yeah, because what I'm thinking is they probably have some kind of dynamite.
Explosive.
Yeah. Would that be part of a mining operation? I don't know.
No. What are you trying to do? Create an explosion?
I'm trying to create something wherein we can load up the ornithopter with explosives and just send it straight up.
Put your heads together, guys, and tell me what you can do here. I'm not going to say you have. They would have. Okay. They would probably have. I'm going to guess. I'm just thinking here. They would probably have some sort of explosive. Probably not in large quantities, because the idea is when they mine, they're actually drilling, or they're actually running like, and I didn't research this, but they're basically running like through the sand and sifting it, pulling the spice out of it. And so they may occasionally run into rock or something like that that's below the surface. So there might be a tremendous amount of power in these spice harvesters, but as far as explosives go, I don't really honestly see something like that. It just seems too clumsy, maybe, for... If you guys want to put your head together, I'll give you a moment to talk about it and figure out what you want to do to stop
chemicals. Acids, something that might be able to eat through one of those cables.
Some of the devices that you see around you might have chemicals within them that you could draw out, but probably not enough to eat through these cables. Again, these cables are massive. They're the size of, they go, you could barely get your arms around them. Ladies and gentlemen, I've stumped my players.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can come up with at the moment is just continuing to do a suicide mission from the ornithopter. We can get that to fly up there on its own. And a ramming, but I'm not sure what else we can do.
What is now our thumper went off prematurely? Is that what happened?
You summon the worm too early.
You summoned it too early. Now, just from an ecological standpoint, when there's one, is there usually many?
Not many, but there could be a second one. It's possible.
And I have a power shield, or a personal shield, which also summons them a little bit, right?
It summons them a lot.
Yeah.
Shields are generally frowned upon as far as usage in the deep desert goes, just because of the fact that the vibrations that they cause are basically attractive to worms.
Well, I'll let these guys know I've got one. Maybe they're ready for one worm. Do you think they're ready for two?
Let's find out.
All right. I will engage the shield.
Okay, so the shield itself kind of looks like a harness, essentially, and you kind of like click some switches and turn some dials and toggle, a switch here or there, and you engage it. And I assume you're not wearing it, right? You're just going to toss it away from you.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to be wearing it. Right.
Right, like run through the desert. Like,
yeah. Hey, here, follow me.
Follow me, everybody. Giant sandworm. So you engage it. Now, are you like tossing it in a certain direction? What is your approach here? There is an enormous worm that is now, as you're standing there, it's probably halfway. It's 50-50 within the sand, and you can see these dozen or so ships that are just pulling it up out.
I would say I'd like to, either carry the shield or bring it over to where, if these things are directly above this one worm, maybe 20 yards to one side of it.
Yep. Right. So right near it. So make an understand or discipline roll with a drive.
We'll do understand and duty.
Yeah.
So that's an 11.
Okay.
That is a 10 and a 3.
Okay, so 2 successes. Let's just say that you toss the harness out into the sand, and we'll see what it reaps in a moment. Is there anything else that you'd like to do? Now you can kind of hear those those engines. You just keep thinking they couldn't get any higher in pitch, but they are pulling that thing out of the sand, and now I'm going to say it's more like 2/3 of the way out, and you can it's thrashing, and as it thrashes, you can kind of see the cable beneath as it absorbs the force and the momentum of that thrashing, but somehow it's managed to hold on to it, and the ships above are kind of like moving and absorbing the force. Is there anything that you guys are doing as this is happening, or are you just going to wait for hopefully a second worm?
No, I guess unfortunately just wait.
Is there a way to add more weight to that worm?
I don't know.
Does it look like there's anything in here that looks like a communications array?
Yes, I like that question. It looks like if you look off to the side, it's a rather downtrodden kind of like old. What you're looking at is the smuggler's equipment and not perhaps the equipment of the Strictians, the organic equipment. But yes, there's a communications array nearby. It looks like it's kind of like half sunk into the sand where the worm popped up before. You could get to it.
Who are you gonna call?
Well, I'm thinking maybe we can call these drop ships, but I don't know what we could tell them. How about we tell them the Harkonnens are sending ships or sending something?
Well, are we able to see anything details about the dropships?
Go ahead and make an understand roll.
What drive do I put with that?
I don't know.
Truth, I guess.
Probably.
All right.
Sounds good.
It's only an 11. A 3 and a 1.
3 and 1. Okay, so 3 successes.
Can we tell which faction they belong to?
What you see is a mishmash of several different factions. As if
Interesting.
different corners of the universe, of the known universe, were working together. And this only reminds you of what Cardinal Thome was telling you before, and that is that they were trying to create one true universe where everyone is at peace. You see a ship that looks like it's from it's an Ixian ship. You see one that is that a Carino ship? It couldn't be because that's the Emperor's family. Is that actually something from Getty Prime? It couldn't be Harkonnen, could it? I mean, maybe it's just something that was stolen from the Harkonnens. So you see different things. And then there are a few ships that actually look like there's some other form of technology that matches the technology that you saw earlier in that structure. So that's what you see. That's what you gather.
And which house is quote unquote ruling Atraxis right now?
The Carinos, Emperor, the Padishah Emperor, the Carinos. Oh, which is ruling Dune right now?
Yes, which is
ruling I'm
Dune
sorry.
right now.
The Harkonnens were, but right now, literally, this is like the week or two between the change of power, the exchange of power. So at this point, technically,
House Fenring.
Yeah, House Fenring is overseeing it, and there is a technical name for this, which I'm going to get called on. If I had 1 million viewers, they would all yell at me right now, but I only have like 2. So the judge of the change is not Fenring. But anyway, there's technically maybe no one in charge at this point. Someone between the two. Atreides have not arrived. This is out of game because you guys wouldn't quite know this, but the Atreides have not arrived yet.
Tyrus, you know the worms fairly well, right?
Yeah.
What would be a disease that a worm could carry that would prove terminal, or at least prove that it could not generate spice?
I don't know. I'm sure I know. If there is one, I'm sure I know a name of it.
You would probably know something that would cause
scurvy. Let's call it scurvy.
Not quite,
right.
But we'll accept it for now.
All right. I'm running to the communications array. This is where I get to step up. My focus is in persuasion. I'm getting on the horn. I'm going to convince them to drop that thing because it's diseased.
Nice.
I like it.
Okay, So is that what we're going to actually be doing then? So we will.
That's what I'm doing.
I like it.
And Diverian, if you found this, are you gonna allow
I'm
Reese to?
yeah, I'm deferring to Reese.
Okay.
He's much more knowledgeable about the off-world than I am.
All right. So Reese, you and Diverian, and I assume Tyros all make your way over to this communications array. Tell me what you're saying, and then we're gonna make this a communicate roll.
Okay.
Um,
Cable ship. This is Surface. You got to drop it. It's got scurvy.
Are you gonna say "Yar, shiver me timbers" as well?
Not enough limes growing around here for it to fight off that scurvy.
Okay, so the
Worm's useless. Worm's useless. Go ahead and drop it.
Okay. So the interesting thing here about Dune and Adventures in the Imperium is that there are all sorts of different forms of conflict. So we have traditionally what you're used to seeing in Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games is basically like fighting. But in Dune, we have dueling, which is encounters between two people, warfare, which is encounters between large numbers of people, skirmishes, which are somewhere between dueling and warfare, espionage and intrigue. Now, these are sort of more abstract concepts, but espionage is conflicts between like organizations or individuals, and intrigue is social conflict. So what I'm going to count this as is either, well, I'll count it as espionage. So this is going to be an espionage roll. Reese, we're going to count this as a communicate
Right.
roll.
My specialty. Thank
What do
you.
you want to drive this with? To see if you can convince.
Justice. I'm seeking justice for the worm. The worm is getting captured. It should not be caged or used for other means beyond its
Do you have a
natural.
statement in justice, or is it just?
Yeah. No liberty without justice.
There we go. Okay.
Perfect.
And do you have any focus, perhaps, in communicate?
Yes, persuasion.
Okay, great. So what's your communicate level? Rank?
6.
6. Okay, so 6 and below is going to be 2 successes.
Right.
Go ahead and.
All right. I need
We have no momentum, so if you want to give him some threat to buy another dice.
All right, I will. I'll take a threat for one more die.
There you go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that the difficulty for this is going to be a 3.
Oh, I'm glad I'm spending that. 14 or less. 14, a 14, and a 5.
Wow.
Okay, so 4 successes. That gives you 1
Oh, that's
back.
right. The 5 gives me, that's right, the double. So.
Yeah, so it gives you 1 momentum back as well. Did you spend momentum, or was that just?
No.
No, we gave you threat.
Threat.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Do I get the threat back?
Look into my.
We get a
What does a
refund?
phone say? Look into my eye. Fall in, people.
Scabies.
There's a
That's what we got.
pause.
Scabies.
That gets them. There's a pause, and it's a visible pause, and an audial pause, as the 12, the dozen ships stop for just a moment, and it's that sort of, you get the impression that the order has been given to halt. It's like the last moment before somebody launches a missile. People tell their subordinates to halt. And the pilot, the commander of this group, calls back. Who is that down there? Who are you? Identify yourself.
All right. thinking faster than I'm speaking here. So
Buying
all right.
time by out of game talking and saying sentences that use words in order to allow my mind in the background to think of something clever that will convince the game
you
master
have
that
to
I know what I'm
understand,
doing.
Reese is
Fine
much more clever than I am.
Right, that's
So
true.
I mean, ultimately, you got to give me a
Right.
pause.
Yeah, you're
So-
role playing it. Yeah. We can slow time in order to allow you to catch up to Reese's thoughts.
All right. It doesn't matter who I am. This comes down from the cardinal. Drop it.
Let's call this a graduated role. I'd like you to
Okay.
make another communicate. I think this makes sense. You're having a
Still three?
conversation back and forth. Yes, still 3. Give me
So,
more
gentlemen,
thread.
should
It's a
I
one
give him
shot.
another
Just spend
threat?
it. Spend
Again?
it. Absolutely.
Again? All right. I'm
I mean,
spending
I
it.
guess technically you have momentum if you want to use that instead of threat.
All right. 14 is the magic number. 10, 8, 19. I only got 2.
The ships begin to pull again, ignoring you, lifting the worm up out of the sand, and now it's 3/4 of the way out, and it's straining, and you can see as it's taken out of its element that it's kind of, even though it's panicking, it's losing some of the force, some of its strength, and it's being drained. As it's being frightened, which is something that actually sends a ripple of fear down your own spine. It is not often that you see a worm when it is frightened, and so now.
Before we go on, can I effectively assist him to try again by using my knowledge of sandworms to kind of give him better details to enhance the virus story?
I will allow another role. We'll call this the final graduated role in it, if you would like to confer on this and then tell me what you're going to do.
All right.
Yeah, man, I'll give him, I guess, more realistic scientific details about describing what the virus would do and how it looks on the worm, so he can use that in his persuasion role.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So then we'll call this an aid or a help.
Yeah.
So in that case, you're giving him 1 extra die. So you can go
Okay.
ahead and make your roll one more time. So it's going to be 2 dice plus the 3rd die, unless you want to give me some more threat.
We have 1 momentum point. Let's blow it.
Okay, I'll take the momentum.
So I have 6.
I'm going to roll a 20. I just know I am.
I have 6 threat,
Yeah.
just to let you know.
It's fine.
Well, no, we didn't add threat. This is
And
momentum.
okay, but technically I should have much more than that. But I'm just saying I'm putting my hands together like this, which always means that I'm really thinking about using it.
All right. All right.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Right.
I get back on the horn. I said stand down. That worm will be dead in a week.
Make your roll.
All right. I do a 14, an 11, an 8, and a 16.
Which is how many
Nice.
successes?
So 3.
3 successes.
One of them wasn't critical.
Yes,
He should
because
be
don't you
critical.
have a focus in that communicate?
I do. I have it in persuasion, but it was 8, not 6.
Oh,
6, so
okay.
I would have had to get lower.
Okay, so it's just 3
Okay.
successes, so you barely make it. Is the retry at a higher difficulty rating? I like
Are
how
you playing the cardinal phone right now and taking us back in time and actually trying to rewrite it? Is that what's going on
Okay.
here? You told me it was a 3.
you
Right.
manage to get through to them.
Mhm.
And the answer that you get back is, thank you for the information. We'll start the termination sequence immediately. And there are explosions from from the cables that have been fired all around the worm. So 2 on each side, going 6 pair going up the worm, and there's basically explosive bolts go off on each cable, severing the connections. And the 6, or I should say 12 ships are not pulling out, but essentially when the weight of the worm drops off of them, they all sort of rise several hundred feet in the air, gaining in altitude, and then they find sort of an equilibrium where they're hovering. And it looks like you have a temporary moment here. What are you going to do with this time? And the worm is restored to the desert surface and just throwing up geysers of sand, and it begins to slowly burrow. And you can kind of see that psychologically, as Fremen, you kind of get it. The worm is a little rattled by what's just happened to it, and it's a little, it's not, you know, it's not happy. Are you guys up to anything?
Yeah, I'll get back on the horn one last time. Drop ships, drop ships. The operation's been compromised. Disperse.
Make a communicate roll.
All right, I'm not giving you any more of this. All right. 13-7, 2.
So 2
Well,
successes.
if we're still on the justice side of things, yeah.
2 successes.
Mm-hmm.
The dropships don't go anywhere, but you just hear one word. Understood. And that's it, and they hover in place for a moment. And now the worm is continuing to slither along. And when I say slither, it's like a momentous thing to see as it slowly snakes its way beneath the surface of the desert. Are you gentlemen doing anything about this? I mean, are you doing anything at all, or?
I say we pack up and get out of here.
Yeah.
Grab our friends and go back.
How are our
Oh, I guess we got to go get the other guys at the other dune.
How are they going to survive the desert? Granted, nights, it'll be night soon, but
Well, when we go back to the people we sort of captured in the beginning, our gear is there. I got a frem kit. We've got tents. We can work our way through. Travel at night, rest up at day.
Before we leave, I want to look around and just see if there are any like technological things that catch my eye that I might be able to sneak into my pack.
I'm going to say that there are quite a lot of them. I don't want to run through everything.
Oh,
but
it's
I'm just wondering, how much time do you want to spend?
Just real quick, maybe 5 minutes.
So now Reese and Tyros, are you going to go along with this?
yeah,
Give them
but
5
I'm looking
minutes.
for water. I'm looking for water.
You are able to salvage, I'm not even going to make you roll, off of a few frem kits that you find here or there, off a few backpacks. There's some bladders, water bottles, things like that you find.
Cool.
You're able to find these things. Tyros, are you looking for anything?
No, I'm gonna say I was focused on since I believe that the 2 guys down the rocks were a little bit of a distance away from the camp.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna say that my focus was on going to retrieve them and not worrying as much about the rest of the party.
Okay. Is everybody kind of generally heading in that direction, like toward the rocks to help those, or at least to recover them and then take them back to the siege?
Yes, but do we still have some of that armor that disguises us?
Yes.
Because we're going to be standing out much like the white figure on my background here.
Yes.
If we just walk through the desert.
Yeah. Let me just say this, however. Yes. Never mind.
Okay.
Forget I said anything. No problem. Nothing to see here. Please move along. Yes, you do, because at least Davirian and Tyros and Fader do, because I believe they were the ones that were dressed in these disguises, and then you did not, because I think you had 3 of these suits, and so that's why you became the prisoner, the false prisoner. So you're not dressed that way, but they are.
And that's what I was asking, if there's any others.
Laying
My guess
around?
is that Fader and I probably took it off. We saw the necessity of the disguise to get in, but going forward, we trusted our own training and gear to get us through the desert.
At that, you're saying we're still in the 5 minutes that Diverian is searching, okay? So I haven't progressed the story along. So are you taking that gear off, and then maybe
Yeah.
Reese, you're going to take that suit, like put it in a bag or something and carry it with you?
No, I mean, I'm thinking that we need to have them on so that we aren't apparent when we're leaving the encampment.
Okay.
Right. You can take the one that I'm wearing if you want it, because I think Fader and I would probably trust in our own training. We know how to move through the desert, and stay fairly well hidden. So we're gonna use that. But if you can go ahead and use you can go ahead and use the suit if you want.
All right. There's dozens of ships up there, I say when I'm putting it on.
So indeed, that's exactly what's going on, and now they look like busy bees buzzing around a nest. And more of them
Did
start to come down from orbit. And now
did
there
did
aren't a
the
dozen.
second worm did the second worm emerge?
Nothing has come so far.
Hmm.
It's only been like a matter of a few minutes at this point,
Mhm.
but I can advance things.
Yes. Advance away.
So, the 4 of you, including, of course, Fader, take your 2 Fremen tribe mates. And now they're very groggy, and looking at the 2 of them, you do recognize them as the 2 that have gone missing. The unusual 2. Like, this is not something that normally happens to Fremen. Fremen don't get lost in the desert. That's like a city slicker getting lost in the city. This doesn't make any sense. You aid them and help them as you start back towards your siege. And when I say you start back, I mean you just start walking 5 minutes away from the encampment. And these busy bees start to begin to form over the smugglers' encampment. And now something very odd is going on. They begin to form into a formation. And you hear that sound of something spinning up. And what you see are distortions of some sort, like the distortions that you see, like the mirages in the desert. As the sky opens up and they begin to rain missile fire
Oh
down
Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
on the smugglers' encampment, destroying, just utterly obliterating what was there, but more specifically, aimed toward the poisoned worm.
Bastards.
Good job, Reese.
killing
Oh no.
killing the worm, one missile after another, hitting it, lodging between the rings, and then just exploding. Massive amounts of meat and flesh and exoskeleton tumbling over through the desert. And though the worm is half beneath the sand, it's almost as if you can hear the screams of the worm. And emerging up out of the desert and launching itself toward these invaders is that second worm which eventually surfaces. But they're
Nice.
far too far too high in altitude to reach. And it simply slams into the desert, and when it hits, it's like an earthquake. And you're all knocked tumbling to the ground. And what you leave behind you is, well, a mystery. You know that a poisoned worm is a worm that risks infecting all of Arrakis and all of the worms, and thus the spice, and thus everything, the cornerstones of what the Imperium is built on. Because the spice must flow, and one worm, one infected worm, risks destroying the foundations of the Imperium and probably of this new order of mankind. And as you move into the desert, Tyros, the only thing you have to speak for what has just happened is the new Universal Bible in your hands.
I mean, I don't want to be the one to say it, but Reese isn't really a Fremen. I mean, not to cast blame on anybody or anything, but no, this is terrible. This is terrible. And I'm having a moment here where I realize that these off-worlders are. I made a terrible mistake to think that they were
they offer salvation or
offered something
redemption.
different, and
Better.
it's definitely it brought me back to my Fremen faith here. So willing to brutalize this creature.
Later on, looking through the new Universal Bible, you can see those passages in there about the plans within plans that these new Universalists, that these Strictians are planning for the future, and they are planning intrigue, mysteries, plotting one house against another in order to cause the eventual downfall of the Imperium so that they might move in to take over.
Did we get any clarity as to who those dropships belong to? Were they Carino?
You can go ahead and why don't you make an understand move? I mean, it sounds like Tyros is on the right track there, but you did see that they were a mix. If you want to go a little bit deeper than that.
The cult has already infected other worlds.
All right, so I'll try and understand and a truth. And that's a 12.
What was your, okay, 12, okay. And do you have a focus in
that? So, smuggling. Smuggling focus, but it's not going to matter because I rolled a 16 and a 12.
Yeah, so all you get is that what you saw was a patchwork quilt of technologies, but you don't know who is manning those ships. They could have been stolen, they could have been bought, they could have been any number of things. But looking through the new Universal Bible, you can just see that their plans within plans are basically to pit the houses against one another and eventually cause them to weaken so that the new Universalists, the Strictians, can take over. And it seems like whatever's happened tonight, or I should say this today, is probably going to cause ripples in the desert and war perhaps, or at least grudges between the houses. So I think this is a good point to end our two-part adventure. Who knows? Maybe we'll come back to this later on in time, but for right now, I think this kind of sets up the conflict between the houses. Just
Yeah.
adds another layer to things. If you liked what you watched, what you saw tonight, please do think about liking and subscribing. And a really great thing that helps the channel out is to share what you've seen. It doesn't have to be this adventure. It could be an adventure from somewhere else. It could be one of the interviews I do in Role Player with 1,000 Faces. We hope that you've enjoyed watching part 2, the conclusion of Dune Overture. We will be back. We have some ideas for some actual plays we're going to do in the future. Not exactly sure when, probably within a month or a month and a half or so. We've got some other cool stuff coming down the pipeline. So I want to thank everybody for watching, but more specifically, I want to thank very much my players who faithfully show up all the time. They take valuable time out of their lives to just do something silly like this on a Friday night and help me out with the channel. I want to thank Dean, who couldn't be here tonight. We missed you, but we hope to play with you again. And for the rest of you out there, thank you so much for watching. Happy gaming to all of you, and please stay safe. We'll see you in the future.